The Citizen Report is a production of New Shannon Media. All content protected under copyright.
And welcome to the Citizen Report. I'm Jonathan Shannon, and thank you for joining me today. As always, this newscast is real, in-depth, American. Thank you so much for joining me. My co-host David Heller is off today. I do have to tell you right off the bat that at my house, where I normally produce this broadcast, now I have done it from my car before, but before it was unlike this time before, those previous times might have been out of preference, or if it was because I needed to do it from my car, it was because of a different reason. But I have to tell you that at my house, major technical difficulties, no phone, no internet, and the software that I currently use to produce the Citizen Report via my laptop and the webcam. And the mic that I have set up, unfortunately, to run all of that through using the screen share and everything, I actually use Zoom to do that. Even if I'm doing it without David on those weekends that I'm doing it without him, I have to use the internet. So without the internet, and that's not, and when I say we have no internet, I mean no internet at all coming from our cable company right now. So hopefully we'll have that resolved relatively soon. In the meantime, I do want to bring to your attention, I didn't want to take up any more time than I have to, but I did feel like I need to explain why this is set up this way, especially because I wanted so bad to share my screen and show you this stuff as usual, but I've had to print out this stuff this time. So the show must go on, as the saying goes. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm pressing forward anyway and producing this broadcast, even if the production value isn't quite so great. So on that note, I want to bring to your attention, first of all, hat tip to Nikki. If you're watching, you probably are. Thank you so much. There was a post that was made, and I don't have it listed on here, unfortunately, who this originally came from. But someone had posted this information on Facebook, and basically it was removed. Now, I can't say personally whether it was because of Facebook or if the person removed it. There could be all sorts of reasons, but we do know, at least generally, that Facebook, of course, removes content left and right these days. That's nothing new, so it would not surprise me. So if it were for the reason, if it occurred because of Facebook, if Facebook, the company, removed this post, it would not surprise me. And if they did, that might actually lend a bit of credibility, because when's the last time you saw Facebook removing flat Earth stuff? Exactly. They are threatened by certain posts. They don't want the truth getting out there. Now, I personally cannot verify this 3+ page of information, but you just have to take this at face value. I'd rather give you this information, and then maybe you go do research on your own after the broadcast and see if what I say with regards to this purported intel, whether it might be true. But personally, I think it's very plausible. It certainly passes my personal smell test, just glancing at it. Now, I want to say, first of all, again, as I'm taping this broadcast, I'm literally using my phone with a mini tripod, balancing it on my steering wheel of my car. So, as I said before, I'm not able to share my screen and do all that fancy stuff. Hopefully the information is still just as valuable as you hear this. So listen carefully. I'm going to try very hard to read this as clearly as I can. And hopefully you will take, maybe some of you out there that do research on your own. Maybe you'll hopefully you might consider taking some notes, pause, rewind, fast forward, do whatever you got to do to make sure you get the essence of what I'm trying to articulate here, reading this. So without further ado, let me go ahead and start reading this. As I said, it's over 3 pages long, so it's going to be quite long-winded. Again, thank you, Nikki, so much. It was originally removed, but Nikki found a backup copy, sent it to me, and I printed a hard copy so I could read this right here and now. So let's go ahead and get into this, shall we? Here we go. Quote, "This is very important, so please take a moment to read so you know what has been happening behind the scenes. Evidently, monies to fund the child trafficking tunnels came from U.S. taxpayers through the cabal-owned IRS/Federal Reserve System. An inside source said, quote, they spent trillions of dollars on these tunnels. That's where the trillions of dollars that have been missing from... My apologies. I saw a notification. I shouldn't have looked, but I knew it was going to trip me up. Let me back up and start again. I apologize. That's where the trillions of dollars that have been missing from the 9/11 building that they took down. Unquote. Read below. So I'm just summarizing this. Basically, the money that the deep state apparently used, if this is to be believed, if apparently monies that funded the child trafficking tunnels came from it was literally taxpayer funded through the cabal-owned IRS/Federal Reserve System. And of course, we know Federal Reserve System, it's not federal, not our reserve. It is a privately owned entity. It's just unbelievable. In fact, let me read that quote again because I know I got tripped up there. Let me just read it one more time and then I'll go on. An inside source said they spent trillions of dollars on these tunnels. That's where the trillions of dollars that have been missing from the 9/11 building that they took down. All right, let me keep going here. Second paragraph. Since April 2019, in secret military operations, thousands of tortured, mutilated babies, children, and teens have been rescued or found deceased by the U.S. military. U.S. Special Operations teams, directed by President Trump and his Pentagon Pedophile Task Force, have been clearing out the children, corpses, gold, cash, and documents from a massive labyrinth of DUMBs, D-U-M-B-S, that's in all caps, tunnels. And then it clarifies by putting in parentheses it spells out the acronym, which is deep underground military bases that ran beneath the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. Evidently, over centuries, the tunnels had been built and used by members of the Illuminati, better known as the Cabal or Deep State. Global political and Hollywood elites into Satan worship were known to pay big bucks to drink the blood of a traumatized child known as adrenochrome, reported to create a high, along with a supposed reverse of aging. Although, if their supply was cut off, the partaker suffered greatly and could even die. I should have said at the beginning, this is viewer discretion fully advised here. This is sick stuff. When you hurt children, that's just, that's I don't think there's, when you hurt children, that's just beyond, it's a level of depravity that's, I don't think anybody could put a word to fully describe how utterly evil it is to hurt a child, let alone kill it. Let's keep going here. The Pentagon was making sure that supply was never harvested, as evidently it had been for centuries. Back in April 2019, the U.S. military, Interpol, and different countries' local military forces began a concentrated and coordinated effort to rescue children from a huge tunnel network that ran throughout the U.S. from California to New York to Canada, Mexico, Europe, Italy, and it says in parentheses, the Vatican and Venice. And then it says the Hague, golly, New Zealand, South America, and the Middle East. And then it has in parentheses, Lebanon. Lebanon. Isn't that interesting? Some of the tunnels lay beneath the Vatican, with many reported to be several stories deep, like the one beneath the Denver airport. By April 2020, a total of over 50,000 malnourished, caged, and tortured children had been reported as rescued or found deceased in the tunnels beneath large U.S. cities, including one under New York Central Park. Another tunnel was said to run from the Clinton Foundation building to the New York Harbor. Oh my gosh. Here we go with the Clintons again, right? Let's keep going here. The latest horror was uncovered around August 2020 beneath Reno, Nevada, where thousands of mangled, recently deceased corpses of children were discovered. The children captives were believed to have been kidnapped or bred for purposes of sexual abuse, human experimentation, and human sacrifice and satanic rites. On Wednesday, October 16, 2019, an unbelievable 2,100 children being held in cages in underground tunnels at the California China Lake military facility were rescued by Navy SEALs and U.S. Marines. The children and teens were said to have been sexually abused, tortured, and killed to collect their blood. Marines carried out traumatized children, some of whom have never seen the light of day. Pregnant preteens, deformed babies, piles of little corpses, my God, whose bodies were apparently used for organ harvesting, children locked in cages, electroshocked, oh my God, and traumatized in order to harvest their blood. Adrenochrome for the elites to drink. That's just page 1. Let's keep going here. It's hard. It's hard, isn't it? It's hard to think about this. And this is a beginning of a quote here. Quote, in Nevada, the child rescue operations moved in earnest. What was amazing is that everyone was thinking Las Vegas would be the horror show of horror shows. There was a horror show, but it was Reno. Underneath Reno, they could not believe the tunnels underneath the ground, the dumps. The bulk of the children found in the tunnels under Reno were dead. Not only dead folks, they were mangled. They're trying to do DNA testing to get the pieces back in order, which piece belongs to which other torso. It's horrific, unquote, commented Dr. Charles Ward, who has been in a couple of the tunnels. A trooper involved in rescue operations said, quote, on 4 July 2019 at 2 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, we surprised personnel at the China Lake Naval Research Base in California. We took over the base and rescued approximately 3,000 children being tortured in ways beyond comprehension. The count now of traumatized children found dead or alive was more like in the hundreds of thousands, generations who had never seen sunlight, unquote. Another trooper in rescue efforts reported, quote, underground bases trafficking children were destroyed back in 2019. That included a base that was under the Getty Museum. The more recent Utah March 18, 2020 earthquake was actually destruction of child trafficking tunnels under the old Dugway, Utah germ warfare base, also referred to as another Area 51 UFO base. There was a major battle under the Denver airport. The Illuminati had planned to make Denver the capital of the U.S. after they took over and killed most of us, unquote. You know, I've heard rumors about Denver airport, and if you just look at the design, if you will, the paintings are just bizarre. It's like, you could tell it's now, I don't know this definitively, but my personal interpretation of like one painting in particular seemed to glorify communism. Maybe somebody knows what I'm referring to. I mean, it's just a weird place. I have never been in that airport, and frankly, I don't think I'd ever care to visit, but if I ever did go there, I'd make sure to document what I see for the citizen report, of course, right? I mean, what a weird airport that is, from what I know, from what I've seen and read. All right, let's keep going here. There was a tunnel system that circled Australia and centered in Melbourne. The military made a massive raid in tunnels beneath the Black Forest in Germany. In Barcelona, Spain, they rescued over 2,000 women and children while arresting 13 of their pedophile leaders. There were 30,000 pedophiles arrested out of Germany, and lots were arrested in Spain and England. Charlie Freak from Australia said that the troops went into Melbourne and found a second layer of tunnels beneath an enormous tunnel system in Australia. Quote, "It started in Sydney. They described it to us. I can't pronounce this word. It's weird. It's a weird word. I'll just spell it for you. Maybe you know what this word means. Arachnid. Arachnid. It's a web, and it was below. So this second tunnel system goes in a ring around Australia, with a big central line running towards Ayers Rock. One night, 9 p.m. to 6 or 7 a.m., there were explosions every 2 or 3 seconds that entire time. That's why there were police out there," unquote. U.S. military, Marines, Navy SEALs, and Special Ops trained for over a year for the special missions under the direction of President Trump and the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force. These U.S. Special Forces were working with Interpol and various countries' militaries to clear out the underground tunnels filled with trafficked children and women. They then blew the tunnels up so they can never be used again for any purpose. The small nuclear explosives used caused small earthquakes in the region. That's page 2. Page 3. All right, here we go. Evidently, monies to fund the tunnels came from U.S. taxpayers through the cabal-owned IRS/Federal Reserve System. An insider source said, quote, "They spent trillions of dollars on these tunnels." Wait a minute. That's where the trillions of dollars that have been missing from the 9/11 building that they took down. Hold on a second. My apologies. I'm guessing he repeated that paragraph for some reason. Anyways, continuing on here. The operation was ongoing as they discovered even more tunnels deeply buried beneath the earth. Dr. Charles Ward said, quote, "The rescue operations were taking longer than the Alliance thought because the massive labyrinth Illuminati tunnel systems were more vast than anyone had any idea of. They collapsed the tunnels in Lebanon," Ward said. "There was a considerable amount of tunnels under a building there that exploded. I've learned an awful lot about these tunnels, and I have actually been inside some of these tunnels in my work because they store a huge amount of gold and cash in these tunnels. The ones I've been in were 200 meters below ground level. The width of the tunnels would be 30 to 40 feet. The height would be 15, 20 feet. There was electric golf buggies riding around down there like it was a main road. 40 kilometers, 30 kilometers of roads down there, shops down there, living quarters down there, storage facilities, safes, everything down there. And this was just the two that I visited. I think the process has been, from what I understand, once they've removed the women and children that were stored down there, they were removing the tunnels so nothing can ever be done there again, unquote. Ward has personally been inside 2 dumps that were crammed with cash, gold, and valuables. He was part of a team that was moving gold, cash, and valuables around the world for the United States government to back a revaluation of currencies and a global currency reset about to take place. Dr. Ward related that in March 2020, during the child rescue mission at the Vatican, they arrested the Pope. Some of Ward's security team watched the arrest. He said that 650 plane loads of gold, cash, and documents were flown out of the Vatican to Fort Knox. He regularly used special trained teams to move money, and his teams had been hired to clear out the Vatican of its stolen treasure. Quote, I don't think normal people have any idea or any concept as to how many children disappear every single year. And I'm going to sicken you right now. People that we trusted, organizations that we trusted during times of tragedy were involved, such as Hurricane Katrina, where lots of people went missing. They were basically stolen by organizations that we trust to look after us in a time of trouble. Those kids were trafficked. Quote, that's pretty damn disgusting. In times of war, the wars in Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, the amount of children that were stolen from these countries is unbelievable. So that the families think that they've died, and they haven't. They've been stolen. This is a world that, don't take my word for it, go and do some homework, because it's absolutely disgusting. That's page 3. Continuing to page 4, and this is the last page. Quote, and you'll start to wake up to what Donald Trump is actually doing when he's draining the swamp. I don't think a lot of people have any idea how dirty that swamp is, how contaminated it is. And when you wake up to what he's actually doing, it doesn't matter if he has funny hair. It doesn't matter if he has funny tweets. If he gets rid of one pedophile gang, saves one woman and a child from being trafficked, he's doing a good job. He's saved thousands and thousands of children and families, yet there's nothing in the mainstream media. They should be ashamed of themselves, totally ashamed. It's disgusting, unquote. So there you have it. I mean, if you're like me, that's like a roller coaster ride of information. I must say, I'm not a perfect person, but I have to say, when you hurt a child, when you hurt a child or kill a child, how in the world can you ever? I just don't get it. You hurt a child? I'm speechless. I have no words. There is no words I feel like I can use to describe how when you hurt a child, it's just there's no words. There is no words for that. It's like Jesus said, you do better to tie yourself to a, what does he say? Something along the lines of tie your neck to millstone, cast yourself into a sea. It would be better off if you did that, if you hurt a child. Oh, I just have to take a second. I mean, to be honest, that's the first time I've read it word for word myself. So some of that reaction you were seeing was, that was just me as in real time. I mean, I was just discovering some of this information. I had skimmed through it, but I hadn't read word for word everything. So it's just unbelievable. I just gotta say, I don't want to ever again hear anybody talk about Trump, saying Trump's this, Trump's that. Shut up. I mean, seriously, look at this. This information I just read to you, if you need to go back and listen to again, please do. If this doesn't tell you that that Trump's on, he's being used of God to do God's work. If you cannot figure that out by now, I mean, I guess I don't really know what to say. I mean, when you rescue children, that's a class act, but it's beyond a class act. That's divine intervention, in my opinion. God is using President Trump, divine providence, whatever you want to call it. God is using President Trump in this time to save these children. So, I do have other news to get to tonight, and again, my apologies for the very, very primitive style of this broadcast tonight. I do have another article here, far less shock. Well, maybe it will also raise your blood pressure a little bit, but in a different way. Hopefully, not too much though. This is courtesy of JohnBWellsNews.com. JohnBWellsNews.com. The headline reads, and I'm just going to read this to you, and I mean, this is just shocking. It kind of confirms what the gut intuition is about all this, but to actually see this come out in the news now, it's insane. Belarusian president claims IMF and World Bank offered him a bribe to impose COVID restrictions. This article is dated September 10, 2020 by Martin Armstrong. Now, of course, John B. Wells News is a news aggregate website. I should have clarified that. It's built as an alternative to the Drudge Report, and I think he does a great job, John B. Wells and his team, with that website. And let me read this article for you. From whatever publication it originated from. It's written by Martin Armstrong. Alexander. Now, some of these words I just can't pronounce them because it's, obviously from a different language. Alexander, in terms of the names, I should say here. Alexander Grigorievich Lukashenko, maybe? And then it's got another alternative word that this, alternative full name that this guy goes by that I can't really pronounce. Sander Ryovich Lukashenko. Obviously, I'm not well versed in that language, let alone I'm not even vaguely familiar with their language, to be honest. Anyways, that person just mentioned is a Belarusian politician who has served as president of Belarus since the establishment of the office 26 years ago on 20 July 1994. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko said last month via Belarusian Telegraph Agency, or BELTA, that World Bank and IMF offered him a bribe of $940 million in the form of COVID relief aid in exchange for $940 million USD. The IMF and the World Bank and IMF demanded that the president of Belarus, and it lists several things here, imposed extreme lockdown on his people, force them to wear face masks, impose very strict curfews, impose a police state, and crash the economy. Belarus President Alexander Lushenko refused the offer and stated that he could not accept such an offer and would put his people above the needs of the IMF and World Bank. This is not a conspiracy. You may research this yourself. He actually said this. Now, IMF and World Bank are bailing out failing airlines with billions of dollars, and in exchange, they are forcing airline CEOs to implement very strict policies, such as forced face mask covers on everyone, including small children whose health will suffer as a result of these policies. And if it is true for Belarus, then it is true for the rest of the world. The IMF and World Bank want to crush every major economy with the intent of buying over every nation's infrastructure at cents on the dollar. My gosh. Well, it confirms what we kind of knew, that something was going on behind the scenes. Well, there's that. Now here's this from losangeles.cbslocal.com. This is from CBS2 KCAL 9. For those of you who are any bit familiar with that market, you might be familiar with that station. This is an article from September 10, 2020 by CBS LA staff. County. Now, I'm going to read this headline to you, okay? Audio. LA County Health Director says schools won't reopen until after November election. This is a mainstream outlet saying this, okay? Are you kidding me? So they just confirmed what we already knew. That Q's basically said the day after the election they would drop COVID like it never was a thing, okay? Now we're seeing this from a mainstream outlet. Are you kidding me? Okay, let me read. I'm going to read this article for you. County health officials Thursday sought to clarify comments made by Public Health Director Barbara Ferrer after a recording emerged of Ferrer predicting that schools were unlikely to reopen until after the November election. The comments were first reported by KFI AM 640, which provided an audio file of Ferrer apparently saying the reopening timeline for LA County, this is just unbelievable, would likely come sometime after the election on November 3. During a reported conference call with local educators, school nurses, and other groups while discussing the upcoming flu season, Ferrer said, quote, "We don't realistically anticipate that we would be moving either to Tier 2, and the article clarifies, of California's reopening plan, or to reopening K-12 schools at least, until after the election. After, in early November." Oops. You might said a little too much there, lady. Continuing her quote here. If we just look at the timing of everything, it seems to us the most realistic approach to this would be to think that we're going to be where we are now until we are done with the elections. Unquote. Propaganda is nice and shiny when it first comes out, and then you see articles like this that admit what we've been saying for months now. Okay, let me keep reading this article. Now it's just, just straight up the article again. In response to the comments, the LA County Department of Public Health, or DPH spokesperson, said Ferrer's comment was related only to timing any expanded school reopenings to allow for enough time from the implementation of changes to assess impact prior to expansions. Quote, DPH, with schools providing services and support and supports to high-need students over the next 6 to 8 weeks to implement and assess safety directives and strategies for ensuring infection control and distancing. This information will be used to inform the timing of future activities at schools, unquote, the statement added. California Governor Gavin Newsom issued a statewide mandate banning students from in-class education in July. Since then, school districts in Orange County have begun planning to reopen campuses by the end of September, but LAUSD and most other districts remain closed in-class learning. Wow. Okay. So there's that article. And I've said before, we've been saying this for a while now, that after the election, they'll drop it like it never even happened. I mean, can you even believe this? And I mean, I just can't. I cannot believe it. I can totally believe it, and yet it's so shocking, too, that they actually admit what we already knew. Okay? It's all about the election. They are so freaked out about Trump right now that all assets, as Q says, all assets have been deployed. Okay? My apologies. I'm just going to boost my lighting here. It's starting to get dark, although I am getting kind of close to the end of the broadcast here. You know, I could do these other headlines. I think there's enough information I've already divulged here. I think that's enough info for one broadcast. I mean, wow. All the children that Trump's rescuing, and people still say that Trump is just part of the elite. Are you kidding me? Then why is the elite so freaked out about him? I'm just asking, because honestly, I mean, if you cannot figure out by now that Trump is the real deal, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just telling you, I'm calling it as I see it. Trump is the real deal. And if I suspected he was trying to fool us, and this is all a big psyop, I'd be the first to tell you, okay? I'd be the first to tell you. I'm just saying. So anyways, I'm going to pretty much wrap it up here. My apologies again for this, for having to do it this way. I'm going to have to upload this thing, go into post-production and upload entirely from my phone. I've done it before, but this time I pretty much have no choice if I want to get it up today or tonight. So, and obviously I want this information out there as quickly as possible. If you would be so kind, please share the link to this video to whoever you think might need to hear this. And I guarantee you, the social media, big tech, do not want this information I just read out there. So please be strategic if you do share. Try to use coded language. Try not to throw it out there by saying, oh, look at this video of someone of this newscast talking about underground tunnels. I wouldn't put it in that blatant language, although if you think you can do it, then okay. But, we have to be strategic right now, because they want to, the big tech is trying so hard to censor everybody right now. And, we have to try our best to stay on, you have to get out there. We have to spread as far wide as we can, and yet stay just under their radar, hopefully. So at any rate, that's going to do it for the Citizen Report. I just want to say briefly, I should have said this last week, or the last broadcast, of course, the history of the Citizen Report is not, it's a little complicated. I originally launched it as a college podcast, and then it ended when I finished my podcast class at the end of the fall 2018 semester at Gaston College. I relaunched this broadcast in November 2019, less than a year ago. But the Citizen Report was a college podcast at one time. Even though there was a many months period where, I wasn't doing it, and, I didn't know if I'd ever get back to it or not. So in a way it's the same podcast, but the history, but if I include the college podcast as part of the history of this broadcast, it is now 2 years old. So I'm just truly blessed and grateful to be able to do this. Even if I have to originate this broadcast in this fashion, it is, low production, professional quality, but I'm trying to get this information out there all the same. So, just a quick note as well that, I don't want to divulge everything just yet. But I do just want to say this, that I will be taking the Citizen Report on the road a little bit in the coming weeks. I think you're going to enjoy some of the things I have that I'm going to be covering. I cannot wait to cover some of these things. I'm not ready just yet to announce it, but I will be going to certain places, if you will, or what have you, to cover. I think it's going to be beneficial to you as a viewer for me to cover it. So, and I've also bought myself a new mic. I even got a professional mic flag from a great company from a very good company down in Greenville, South Carolina. It's professionally got the Citizen Report logo and slogan on there. It's actually been used by a TV station, or I should say, the company has been, a TV station has actually done business with them. So this is the same kind of quality as that. So I'm really excited about it. I should have brought it here in the car. It's in the trunk, but I should have had it here to show y'all. But anyways, and some other equipment I've went on ahead and obtained as well. So hopefully in the coming weeks, I'll still be doing the webcam on my laptop. But at least when I'm out in the field and things, maybe the production, the quality increases, I hope. So, and of course, the information is paramount. And I appreciate each and every one of you so very much. As I said, please share this to whoever you think should see this. And I could really use the boost, because YouTube and social media, they don't want little guys like me to get traction. So I'd appreciate it, even if, just sharing the link, that goes a long way of helping. And I really appreciate that. I really do. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you for watching the Citizen Report. I'm Jonathan Shannon. David Heller is off. Don't forget our website, thecitizenreport.weebly.com. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, on social media generally, the big platforms, like I said, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and David as well. And thank you for watching the Citizen Report, as I said, and God bless each and every one of you. And I will see you right back here again on the next broadcast, hopefully with a better setup than this. So thank you for watching. As I said, have a great night, great weekend, and great week ahead. And I'll see you right back here again next time. Have a great night, everyone.